All right, we're good to go. And I'll quickly introduce myself and navan.ai and then get started with the agenda, right? So I'm Varun Poladia. I lead marketing at navan.ai. We are an AI and generative AI solutions company headquartered in Singapore, and we do have operations in India as well. We do have several partners across the globe. So we have been in this business, in the AI business, since 2020. So when the world was just starting to warm up to AI properly, that's when we started working on AI. We started with computer vision to begin with, and I'm not sure if how many of you have heard of it, but yeah, it's everything to do with images and videos basically. So that's what we started off with, and then we progressed, and now we do a lot of LLMs, generative AI and LLM-based applications, solutions, and that's where we are currently. Our parent company was started in 2014 as a pure IT services company, and then we got into AI around COVID, and that's how Navan came into existence. So that's a little bit about myself and who we are. And today we're going to talk about AI assistance for streamlining and automating finance operations, right? So I assume all of you are from the finance domain. You might be HR, CHR, sorry, CFO, CF, different levels of finance professionals, different levels of hierarchy in the organization, and doing different functions. So, but I assume that you would want to know how you can leverage AI, how we can leverage generative AI more so. So today we're going to talk about LLMs mostly. So it's going to be generative AI for making your work easier, making it easier for your stakeholders to get the kind of information and the tasks they want to get done at a much faster rate and much more conveniently. So that's what we're going to talk about, and how we can use generative AI for the same thing, right? So that's the first part. And then what I also want to talk about is because we work with and we talk to a lot of enterprises. We know that enterprises want to use AI, want to use generative AI, but then the problem is, or the biggest question is about data privacy and security, right? All of us have come across several news articles about certain companies, certain AI companies using data which is copyrighted or not available publicly, to train their models and so on. So that should not be happening, and that's where that's another thing that I want to talk about, how we can avoid that. So while we want to leverage AI, but how at the same time how can we make sure that our data remains private, our data is secure enough within the network where it's permitted to be. So that's another thing. That's the second half that I'm going to talk about. So let's get started. And yeah, meanwhile, while we are talking, if you guys have any questions, anything to even share, then please go ahead. Please unmute yourself and go ahead. I'd be happy to. I'd rather want this to be a discussion more than a one-way communication from my side. So always open to your suggestions, inputs, questions, anything you have, right? So let's get started with AI assistants or AI chat assistants. So today we are going to talk about AI assistants in the form of a chat or a chat assistant, right? Because AI assistants could be deployed or could be used in multiple manners. So I will start with chat assistants first, because that's the most common way in which we use AI assistants, or that's the most common interface through which we use AI assistants, right? So what's the difference and how are AI chat assistants working? And then the next part is going to be what's the difference between AI chat assistants and the traditional chatbots that are there, right? So AI chat assistants are RAG based. So what happens is these assistants learn from certain data, they retrieve from that data, augment the data, and then generate the response that you get from these, right? So that's RAG based. The technology or the framework is RAG. The other thing or the other differentiating factor is that these are custom trained on certain data. So let's say, for example, ChatGPT is trained on a lot of data, right? But then if you only want to train the assistant on a certain amount of data, then that can also be done. So the chat assistants that we usually provide, we usually work with, those are all trained on custom data. Could be just one document or a PDF or a website. Could be anything, right? In form of any kind of data. but then it's only trained on that kind of data. So it only talks about that data and it does not talk about anything else, which comes to the third point, which is no hallucination, right? So the biggest problem with a lot of AI models is that they, or a lot of LLM models also, is that they hallucinate a lot. So which means that they provide incorrect information, or the information, or they probably provide information that does not exist. And we've seen in the past how certain companies have had who were using AI chatbots had to go through several consequences because their chatbot provided some incorrect information to the customer, right? So the third, so that's a very important thing where we reduce or we avoid hallucination from the assistant, right? That's how we work, and we help enterprises to use AI chat assistants uh, by avoiding hallucination and by giving out incorrect, by stopping or by avoiding to give out incorrect information. Then coming to the difference between chat assistants and traditional chatbots, right? I think most of us have used some kind of a chatbot in our daily operations, in our daily life, right? And for me, at least, it's a very frustrating experience because at least out of every 10 times that I use a traditional chatbot, probably only one or two times it is when my query is answered, and the remaining times I just have to keep checking on the several options available on the chatbot, and then keep clicking so that I get to a point where my question is being asked, right? So it's a very frustrating experience for me. So which is what I was just explaining, the first point that you see. So these are the traditional chatbots are rule based, so they have pre-scripted questions and answers. You have to select one of the questions, and then based on that, it will have a pre-scripted answer which it will give you, right? Now that's a very bad experience for the user, right? And then as opposed to that, you have now with generative AI, you have AI assistants in the form of a chat, which understand natural language, so that I can just type in a query, or I can just dictate a query, or call up someone and call up an AI assistant and say that, okay, this is my problem. How can you help me out, right? So it'll be able to understand that context. It'll be able to understand my natural language, and then it'll be able to provide a response which does not have to be scripted. I mean, there's no script involved in this process. So that's a huge difference between traditional and AI chatbots, right? So that's how we can make sorry. So that's how we can make AI chat assistants much better, or we can make the service much better using AI chat assistants. So that's one of the key differences that I look at, that I see. The other difference is that you can have continuous learning and improvement with AI based assistants, and that can happen automatically. Whereas with chatbots, the traditional chatbots, it's not really possible to do that automatically. And also, every time you want it to learn on something, you have to again create that script of question and answers, modify the entire flow, and so on. And it's a very, very tedious and very time-taking process. The third major difference, is that there are several integrations possible. So let's say, for example, you are using an AI assistant on within your organizations. Let's say maybe to help your employees, say get probably their pay slips from the last 3 years, maybe, right? Then the employees can just say that, okay, this is my name, and or in fact they don't even have to tell their name. It's already connected. So it's already connected to your internal tools, and then automatically it will know that, okay, this is my pay slip for this month based on my query, and it will be able to provide that right away. Versus traditional chatbots, it's very difficult to integrate. And then this kind of query obviously is almost next to impossible to understand and get a response for, because every time you have to create like separate workflow for each and everything, and that's practically not possible to achieve. So that's one of the very big advantages that AI assistants provide over traditional chatbots, right? And obviously, AI assistants can handle more queries and several types of queries as well. So because it understands natural language, so that's a uh, very important differentiating factor between AI assistants and traditional chatbots, right? Because chatbots, or the usual chatbots, the earlier ones, will not be able to understand everything, and then they'll only be limited to what they have been trained for in terms of the script that they have been trained on. Moving on. Okay, yeah. So the question is, okay, we've understood what's the difference, but then how do we use it, right? How do we leverage the power of AI or the generative AI and LLMs, right? So there are a few areas which we have identified where you can use AI assistance so in the form of chat. So let's look at each of these one by one. So let's start with the most common and the most uh, used one, which is invoice processing, right? Every organization has probably thousands of invoices that they process every week or every month, depending on the scale. And it's a very tedious process. Even if you're using OCR, it's not really easy to have every invoice process and then also have the data automatically saved in the relevant tool, relevant ERP, or relevant accounting software, and so on, right? So instead of that, if you can just use an AI chat assistant where you give in an invoice, so you upload an invoice and then automatically it reads from the invoice. It also creates the relevant accounting entries in your accounting tool, and it also records all those details in your tools which are integrated, right? So so all that entire process can be automated with chat assistance. So this is only like an example for chat assistance. But what can also be done is, let's say, for example, I'm an employee. I've probably booked a ticket, right? And I need to get it reimbursed. So I have that email, and I can just forward that email to a particular email ID, which is managed by an AI assistant. And then from that email, the AI assistant would automatically be able to read the details of the details of the invoice and so on. And the remaining process remains the same. It automatically creates the accounting entry and records the details, the description of the invoice and so on. And it can also automatically create the request for payment. So the payment request could go for approval on a specific date, but creating that payment request can also be automated. So that's one of the I think very common use cases where automation can help save you a lot of time and effort. Then another use case, which is more for, I think, managers, middle management, and higher management, is analysis. So analysis of data, right? So let's say you have all your accounting entries, maybe like 100,000 accounting entries in a year, and you have all that data available in your accounting tool. But then the real question is, for if let's say I am someone in the middle management, I want to know which sources of revenue were the highest, or probably which areas were where we spent a lot, maybe. Or let's say if I want to compare the cost for this year versus, or the spends for this year versus the spends for last year, and where did it increase? I can ask all those kinds of questions, and I'll get the analysis right away from that assistant itself, right? So that's a very it's a very good value add, I can say, that AI assistants provide as opposed to any other tool that you would have, right? Even for data analytics, you would have to have someone who can create probably like a Power BI dashboard and so on. But then with AI assistants, all that can be automated. You don't even need to create a dashboard. All you need is the data which is connected, and it can automatically read from the data and provide the analysis from there. The third area where we've seen a good use case for AI assistance is cash flow forecasting. So let's say you have data from the last 5 years, right? Saying that, okay, this was the sales, this was the sales in cash, this was the sales in credit, this was the time it took, this was, probably how much manpower we had, which led to this much sales, or this was the demand available, or let's say there was some other variable, external variable, because of which the sales increased or reduced, maybe, right? So all those variables and all those things can be taken into consideration, and it can also forecast the amount of sales and, say, cash flow that you could have, right? Not just sales, but then your overall cash flow, not just based on sales, but like overall cash flow that you could have. It can, based on historical data and variables, different kinds of variables, it can try to help you out with that kind of forecasting as well. So it can help your organization, as, let's say, someone who is head of finance, maybe it can help you provide the right information and provide the right guidance for the organization to move forward in terms of cash flow planning. Moving on, a few more use cases that we've identified. One is personalized assistance, right? So let's say if you're an organization which employs maybe 3,000 people across different countries, and it's very difficult to provide personalized assistance. So like simple things like, let's say I want to know what's my salary breakdown, for example, right? Like what's the base salary, what are the other perks and benefits, what's everything that's there in my salary structure. Then every time I want to know this, or if I want to make some changes to this, I have to reach out to someone in finance and or someone in HR and say that, okay, this is what I want to be changed. This is what I want to be changed in my salary structure. And then doing that manually. So for you to provide that kind of assistance to each and every employee is not really possible and scalable, right? So somewhere it's going to lead to disappointment within the organization for the employees. So instead of that, if you could just have employ an AI assistant to do the same thing. It's already connected to all your data. It has learned from that, and it knows exactly in the organization that which person has what kind of salary structure. And then from there, it can automatically answer those questions. And if it has the power, if you've allowed it to make changes to the salary structure as well, you can, the employee can also ask the AI assistant to do the same thing. So if you're not allowed, you can at least have the AI assistant to take down or note down the request, and then someone can authorize it, someone can accept it or reject it, right? So a lot of manual work can be reduced, and then you can at the same time you can also provide a lot of personalized assistance to your stakeholders, be it internal stakeholders or external stakeholders. So let's say you have probably 100 vendors that you're dealing with, right? And their invoices are pending to be paid. So every time your vendor would call up probably every week and ask you about the update, right? Like when would their invoice be processed? So instead of that, you could just employ an AI assistant, which is connected to your invoice management system, or say, vendor management system, and then it can automatically give an update to the vendor saying that, okay, your invoice has been authorized, or let's say it has gone for payment authorization, or let's say the payment has been processed from our side, and then it'll reach you maybe in a day or two, right? So all those things can be automated, and it can save a lot of time, and at the same time increase happiness for your stakeholders, be it internal stakeholders or external stakeholders. Another area where we've seen a lot of use is tax and investment planning for every employee, right? So like the example I gave earlier, if I want to change my salary structure so that my taxes can be differently calculated, or let's say if I want to know what my tax could be in the next year based on my current salary, I mean in this year based on my current salary, I can ask that and it can provide me an accurate answer instead of having someone to actually calculate and provide the answer. So it can avoid a lot of manual labor or manual effort, which can be automated using AI assistants. Moving on, I have, yeah, so this is the second part that I was talking about. So we talked about the applications on a broad level. Now the most important question is, how do we ensure privacy of data, right? If we want to use something, but then we want to keep our data private, enterprises usually need their data to be within a certain secure premises, or it can be a certain private cloud or so on, right? So how do we ensure that? So for this, what we do at navan.ai is that we provide private deployment. So private deployment could be, say, on your premise or on your premises, let's say your servers within your premises, or it can also be a private cloud. So let's say you have your own cloud that you use for internal purposes, then we can deploy it on your private cloud as well, so that all the data that you have that remains only within your organization, and you don't even have to provide the data to us. So that's how we help enterprises ensure data privacy. Second, and the most common thing is access control, right? So most of the tools that you use would provide you access control for different levels of organization, different hierarchy, different people, and so on. So same thing we would also provide, and we allow you to define which employee, which person should have what level of access within the tool that we have, right? Within the tool where you can create AI assistants or provide integrations and so on. And the last thing is that it's trained only on your data. So obviously there's no hallucination. And at the same time, if it does not have an answer, it will say that, okay, if there's no answer available for this, you may want to talk to someone, right? So so while it reduces a lot of workload, at the same time, it does not provide incorrect information, which is very, very important for any organization. So nobody else's data is used to train your assistant. and at the same time, your data doesn't go to anyone else. So that's how we ensure data privacy for enterprises. Moving on from here, I think I have an example, right? So we have a platform where you can build your own AI assistant. It's app.navan.ai. I'll share the link in a while. But I've just taken an example from the platform, right? So what I did is that I uploaded a sample document which says this is a taxation policy in Singapore, maybe, right? For example. So this data is hypothetical. I mean, don't look at it because I've just created sample data. So I created that document. I uploaded the document and said that this is data that you need to learn from. From that, the AI assistant learned all the data that's there. And then I converted it into a chat assistant. So I then what you see on the right side is the example of the chat assistant in once it's deployed. So I asked a question to test it out, saying that okay, how much tax do I have to pay if I'm earning 100,000 a year, right? And then it was able to provide me an answer saying that okay, if this is the or if 100,000 is what I'm earning in a year, then this is the entire breakdown of how much tax would I have to pay, and this is the total amount that I would have to pay, right? So based on the question that I've asked, which is natural language, it's able to understand that, it's able to calculate that as well, and give me an accurate answer saying okay, this is what I have to pay. Now obviously this is based on the data that I've provided, so if the data is incorrect, then the answer would also be incorrect. But I've taken hypothetical data for now, so that's what it's based on. I'll share another example which is more for analysis. So this one is a screenshot because it's yet to be implemented on the platform. It will probably be there in a couple of weeks. But what we did here is that we provided an Excel sheet or a spreadsheet with probably about, I think, 1,000 entries, accounting entries for several sprints, spends, income groups, and so on. So based on that, it learned from all that data, and then I asked a few questions. So one of the questions I found interesting was, let's say how many transactions are related to accounts receivable, right? So it says that okay, there are 1,307 transactions related to accounts receivable. And then I can also ask the value of those transactions. What's the total value of those transactions? Or I can say that okay, what's the biggest amount that we've received in this year, right? From say a seller maybe, or sorry, from one of our salespeople, right? So based on this, I can have like an entire brainstorming session with my team, with my finance team to probably I'm sitting to decide the budget for the next year, and then only based on this AI system I could create the entire strategy for the next year, saying that okay, this is what we did in the last year, and then this is what we should do in the next year. So this tool can be really helpful at several levels of the organization. So that was just another example, and I'll keep this very short. We have about 10 minutes. So if you want to build your own chat assistant by yourself, then you can obviously go to app.navan.ai, and there's no coding required. You just have to upload your document, and the chatbot is built. The AI chat assistant is built, and you can deploy it on your website right away. It accepts documents, URLs, sitemaps, or Notion sites as well if you have that data, and it's very easy to create. I'll save you from the, I mean, I don't have time right now to show you a demo, but it's very simple to do. You can just go to this URL and try it out for yourself. So I'll share these links on the chat here. So before we go to the next part, you guys can save these links, and most importantly, I would request you to please share some feedback. We wanted this to be a very concise and very precise, to the point session. So I've tried to limit myself to that. And yeah, your feedback would be very important in making the further sessions more interesting and more relevant for you guys, more helpful for you guys. So please do that. And I've shared the other links as well, which are relevant. And going forward, yeah, so if you need any customization, if you need any integrations, if you want any AI assistant to be developed for your organization, for an enterprise organization, we'd be happy to help you out. So if you're based in Singapore, we'd be happy to meet you for a coffee and discuss how you can leverage generative AI for building AI systems for your organization, right? And that was the end of what I had to talk about. But now let's come back to all of you guys here. So if you have any questions, please feel free. This is the time to ask. You can just unmute yourself and ask. And once we're done with the questions, I would want to, even get to understand who is who, and have some kind of networking amongst all of us here. Any questions?
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Varun. Yeah, maybe I can ask. I like to see. So that means if because I have downloaded the QR code, so it's in my phone. So that means anytime I want to ask questions, I can ask the questions to this AI assistant.
No, so you'll have to first train the assistant. Okay, so I'll just take a minute to take you through that.
Thank you.
Um, and I think it'll make more sense. It'll be easier to understand. Hang on. Okay, my screen is getting shared. Right. I hope you can see my screen now. It says select AI assistant.
Yes, I do. Yeah. Yes.
Yes. So the QR code will. So once you scan the QR code, it will lead you to this platform, which is app.navan.ai. You can
Yes.
sign up for free, and then you'll see this screen, right? Now I can select the first one, which is a Q&A assistant, which we talked about, and then I can say create assistant, right? So when I say that, I can just name it, say, I'll say test right now, and I can upload some kind of a file here. So I have the sample document. So the same sample document that I showed you, right, which was about the taxation policy. I'll try to upload that right now and show you how simple and easy it is to do this yourself. Hang on a minute. I'll just get this document. Yes. All right. So I've added the document and I say create assistant. It hardly takes a few seconds, right? And the assistant is ready. Now I can ask the questions. I can say, what's the tax applicable for someone earning 20,000, for example, right? And yeah, so it says the tax is zero for 20,000. So that's how simple it is. You can upload your own document. You can create or you can add a URL as well if you have some kind of URL, and it will be able to learn from that. Hardly takes a few seconds, and then you can start using it. So you can start asking questions, and it'll be able to answer.
Yeah. Hi, Mr. Poladia. So that means I have to I have to upload the narration first before I ask the questions.
You'd have to upload the knowledge base first, not the narration.
Ah, okay. I see. I see. Okay. So that means if I have for example, I have a company's ad, then I upload the company's ad, and then I can ask questions.
Exactly, exactly.
Ah,
Yes.
okay. I see.
Yeah.
So the mean this is knowledge based. Without uploading anything, they will not. It's not like Chat GPT where we type things and any free question and ask. It's not like that, right?
Yeah, and we purposely want to keep it different from that because we want it to be very specific to the knowledge that you are sharing or the knowledge base that you're uploading, and be able to answer accurately with answers from that knowledge base itself. So that's one of the main reasons why you have to upload your own knowledge base, and obviously that stays. I mean, whatever you create, right, it stays only with you. So that assistant is only accessible to you.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can limit it that way, and
Okay.
then you can upload very specific knowledge base that you have, so it'll be able to work on that.
I see. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That is helpful. Yeah. It's quite intelligent as well. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, so let's just take a minute to understand who all are here right now. So I'll introduce myself. I've done that before. So I'm Varun from navan.ai. I lead marketing here. Can we have like a show of hands, or probably you can just unmute yourself and introduce yourself. Like we had networking as a part of the agenda. I'm assuming you guys want to speak.
Yeah, hi, I'm Angelina. Actually from the Auto Executive Education Academy. The company does the executive education. Um, so I work there as a financial controller. And yeah, I thought that this would be quite helpful to me. And so I thought of learning something new, and which I think so. I learned. So thank you, and happy to be to discuss with you if you want to have any topics on this AI.
Sure. Thanks for joining, Angelica. Anyone else? Or shall I assume that you are at work and you don't want to unmute yourself? All right, then. So we've, I think, overshot by a minute. So let's close it for now. I've shared the links on the chat. So please, please, please do at least feed the feedback. Sorry, fill up the feedback form, and I'd be really grateful for that. And hope to see you again soon in the next meetups or webinars again. So yeah, that's all from my side. And thank you for joining. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Bye